relates to horsepower, but very few times do we ever take a few moments to understand it or to think about it even. And horsepower is a movement of force. It's doing work. No matter how big the force or how small, if it doesn't move, there's 0 horsepower. No horsepower at all. You could have 1,000,000 tons pushing against a mountain. If you didn't move anything, it was 0 horsepower. So what we're doing, you have to move a force to measure horsepower. So what we have here, RPM on the shaft, which is half of it, and the other is the torque. Now the torque that you hear about in everyday life is the amount of force 1 foot away from a shaft. Foot-pounds of torque. We've all heard it, whether we stop to think about it or not. Foot-pounds of torque. And it takes 5,000. You multiply the foot-pounds of torque times the RPM and divide by 5,252. And regardless of what combination of those two things you have, that's the horsepower. We do the same thing, except we make it a little more simple. We can't get 1 foot from this shaft because the wheel's in the way and the brake's in the way. So we have to go out further. We make it easy. We go out 5 1/4 feet. Why 5 1/4 feet? Because the formula says RPM times foot-pounds divided by 5,252. That's 5 1/4, right? 5 1/4 thousand. So instead of being 1 foot away, we go 5 1/4 feet out here, and we only have to divide by 1,000, and we get exactly the same result. So this reading plus this reading multiplied together, divide by 1,000 or point off 3 places, and you're spot on the money. And it's exactly the same end result. And we've done a bunch of those. We've got them charted here, and I'll read them to you in a minute. Paul just keeps on going, very little smoke, good firing, lovely engine, and I'm going to ease the weight. You want to slow down now, do you, Paul? I'm going to pull you way down, all right? He's got it at part throttle. We don't like to lug him too hard. Now that's the versatility of steam. As I said this morning, or earlier this afternoon I believe it was, man has only designed and built 2 engines, only 2, that can start a full load, at full torque, full load, from a dead stop in either direction and go through the entire power range. And those 2 things are a DC electric motor and a steam engine. Nothing else can do that. And that's what you're seeing, of course, here. I can stall him right down. I won't do it under a heavy load. He's got the throttle cut back some, but now watch. Now if I stall him and I release the load, goes again. Release the load, here we go. Try that with your car engine or your tractor engine. So getting back to the subject, we're really measuring horsepower as accurately as many of the more sophisticated dynamometers. There are several ways of doing it: electronic dynamometers, hydraulic dynamometers, with the abbreviation dyno that you hear a lot. I might caution you, though, on the dynamometers in farm dealers, the M&W type dynamometer. They're accurate, but you have to be careful how you read them. Most of them have a dial on it that shows you how many horsepower you're producing. But that dial is only accurate at 1 particular RPM. Some have 2 rings of figures, so it's 2 different RPMs that you can use. And many, many times the farmer takes his tractor into the dealer, hooks it onto the dyno, and they rev, and the horse horsepower reading keeps climbing, and he puts the load on, and the engine slows down, and the horsepower climbs up. False. False, unless it's at the proper RPM. And many a man goes home and saying, oh boy, I've got so much horsepower and this is a great tractor. He doesn't have it at all, unless they read it at that RPM. Any question? Got a small crowd, but that's all right.
Oh, not out. Back the door out.
Oh, he did? Yeah. What award was he supposed to get?
Well, that's their problem.
We're up in the steam engine section. We're visiting with Roy Larson. Roy is from Fairfield, Iowa. And Roy is one of our engineers who has come into Pawnee, and he's drove approximately 600 miles to this show. Roy, can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing here?
Well, I come down to the show here and keep this Elgin Watch 40 of Charity's hot for him during the day. He climbs the incline with it, and I just try to have it ready for him when it's time to do that.
Okay, Roy, how many years have you been coming down here to this show and helping Chatty out?
I've came down here to the show ever since it started in the spring. The first year I didn't help him. I think it was the second year that I came I started to help him.
That's been about 6 or 7 years now, right?
Probably 6 years, I expect.
6 years.
I might be wrong on that, but it's roughly 6 years.
Okay. Well, I certainly want to thank you for coming to Pawnee, and you definitely traveled quite some distance to come here and be with us. And you're some of the fine folks that we really appreciate around here, and we really appreciate your skills coming down here and taking care of this engine. And we just really appreciate some of these folks like yourself.
Well, you know, I'd drive further than that to come to this show. I would. I enjoy it every bit.
Well, we got folks that do drive quite a bit farther than that.
Oh, yes. It's one of the great shows.
It's not a little show. It's a big show, and it draws people in from a long ways off.
Yeah, people like to come to Pawnee. You can hear that any place.
What do you think about the show this year? How's it look to you?
Well, this year we haven't really got off the ground, but today's going to be a great day. The rain don't help any show, a steam show. The ground gets muddy and you just can't do what you want to. But today's going to be a great day.
Oh, I think it is too. It seems like for the last 2 years we've had mud, but we can live with the mud.
Oh yeah, better drowned out than dry out, I almost said.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Roy, thank you so much for coming to Pawnee, and we'll look for you here next year.
I sure hope I can make it again next year.
Oh, you'll be here.
I will if the creek don't get up like this.
That won't stop us. Thanks a million, Roy, and you have a good day.
I try. You bet.
We're visiting with a gentleman that has